Hey there, and welcome to Ryan's tutorial about how to create sections and elevations. A section is a vertical cut-through of a structure, revealing its internal spaces and construction details, while an elevation is a view of a building's exterior facade. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to create these essential drawings while using Ryan's styles, blocks, and exporting features. Let's dive in. Okay, let's start creating a section and an elevation from this model we have here. So just for some context, we're on a Rayon canvas where you can draw your architectural drawings or import different types of files like DWG, DXF, PNG. If you're working with another 3D tool other than Rayon that is a 2D tool, you can import the beginning of a section from there, which you can then edit, you can stylize and embed in your architectural drawing set. Otherwise, you can create a section and an elevation from scratch. So let's start by going to the layer panel. Basically, the layer panel is where you can organize all the information in your model. Everything you draw on the canvas is going to be associated with a layer, which you can then hide and unhide, lock, unlock. So I'm going to leave the annotation layer on. What I want to do now, before we even start drawing, is take a good look and decide where we want to cut through this floor plan. We're going to draw a line on the floor plan that will indicate where our section is going through and what spaces we're going to see in the sections, what are the relationships between them. So the first thing to do that is to use a section symbol. And for that, I'm going to take us beneath the layer panel to the block panel, and you'll find Ryan's block library. Ryan offers thousands of different blocks from different use cases. And what I want to do now is search in our title blocks and annotation block library. And you can see that if I scroll here, you can find title blocks and symbols. And what I'm looking for is a section symbol to indicate where a section is going to run through. Let's place that one over here. So these are the symbols that I'm going to use to indicate sections and facades. And I can edit its color and style. So I'm going to click on one of these blocks, then double click it and introduce you to the style panel. Once I select an element on the canvas, I can see its style properties here on the right. Styles mean you can change the color, thickness, and appearance of elements on the canvas, whether it's lines, walls, or furniture. In this instance, I'm going to detach the style of this existing block and re-edit it. So basically what I want it to be is orange to make it a bit brighter. I'll attach this one as well. The reason I'm detaching the style is because I don't want to change the style across all the model, just for these specific symbols. Let's do that for these two. For customizing their style, we also want to create duplicate of these blocks for the different facades and different sections. So in this case, you'll see that I'm just going to use the copy command to create 4 facade arrows because this building has 4 facades. And for this one, we can create maybe 2 more. The idea would be that in order to change the numbers and indications in the symbols, you need to unblock and then reblock these symbols. So we'll leave one facade, which is A. I'm going to unblock this facade. I can do that from down here. Call this facade B. Double click to edit, and then do the same for these two. Now let's populate our floor plan with these symbols. Now for sections, it's a bit less straightforward. With sections, you need to decide what's the most efficient place to place your section and cut through your architectural drawing in a way that will convey as much information possible. So the connection between the different rooms on your floor plan, the materiality, the details for construction. So just for an example, maybe let's grab section A. And the section that we're going to do today, it's a horizontal section cutting through the main area of the house, and also the garage, the laundry and service room, and this bathroom. So I'm going to place this section right here. Maybe let's move this a bit. Indicate where our section is going to go through. I also wanted to show this window, so actually let me place that right here. And then I'll just show the other tip of this section to make sure that we're not cluttering our drawing too much. But for that, I'll just use an A line for a second. For each project, you probably want to have at least 2 sections from different areas of the house. So the next section I will place is probably one that's going through the bedroom, and vertical sections to cut through in this direction. Now that you've decided where your sections are going to be located, you can start drawing them. And the first step is going to be to create a new layer on which you're going to draw your sections and elevations. And within this layer, I'm going to nest another layer called section and elevation grid. Gonna drag and drop this layer within the other one so it's nested, and by clicking on this black tick, anything I draw now will be applied onto this section elevation layer. The next thing I'm going to do is move to another area on my canvas to draw these sections and elevations. And what I want to have is a representation of the floor plan that I can rotate according to my section's direction. What I'm going to do is add a view onto the canvas. I'm going to go to the Layer Plus button and add a view. I'm going to select my model canvas, which is basically what we're seeing here. I just copied a representation of the model. It's a representation that I can't change or delete from within this view, but it's a window to the floor plan that I can rotate and I can override its layers and styles. And this is going to guide me and help me to create my sections. So once I've placed this in the same scale of the floor plan itself, I'm going to add this here to the section area. Do now is add a grid onto them and start manually creating the sections and elevations. Selecting this one tool, and basically what I'm going to do now is just draw one very long line and then copy it and start populating it wherever there's a change on floor plan. So when I say a change, I mean an opening or a wall, something that I need to represent in my section. We're not going to do furniture quite yet, so this is more about the constructional assets. So we just drew the lines that are going to be cut by our sections, and now let's add the frame. So basically the floor, the walls, and the roof. I'm going to select the wall tool for that, and I'm just going to select this black wall type, and I'm going to start by drawing the floor. Height of my project is 4.5 meters, so it's a nice tall ceiling. You can see that I'm entering the distance in the bottom, so I'm working in centimeters, so I'm going to do 450 centimeters. Place that. Place my wall here and start off with this kind of rectangle. This is going to be massaged and worked. We have different heights in some areas of the floor plan. You'll see that soon, but I'm just starting off by drawing this and making everything super clear for me. There's also this wall here that isn't cut. So when you're creating sections and elevations, the thickness of the lines, the color of them represent what's cut or not cut, meaning in view mode. So you see, we cut through these walls, but actually here we're looking at the tip of a wall which isn't cut, which means we can probably indicate having this wall, but with a brighter color to make sure that it's readable. Now let's do the same for openings. The trick with blocks in Rayon is that we have block families, meaning that each top view block also has a front and side view representation. So if I have this door on top view and I need to place it here in front view, I can just go to the Rayon block library, summon that same door that I have in my model, and click on the family tag. Here I'm going to find the same door, and I can drag and drop it onto the canvas. Then I can place it and resize it. Let's do the same for the sliding door that leads to this room. So if you do have already on your canvas the top view, just know you can also access the side and front view blocks from the right panel. By clicking on it and then clicking on the different block, you'll get its representation replacement on the canvas. Let's drag and drop that into the wall. There you go. And determine its height. All right, the same thing I'm going to do with windows. So you can just place the block in there and then determine its exact measurement. So that this is 150 height from the floor. I want to also work on representing the ground and representing the roof, because this is a pitched roof in this building. For the roof, you'll notice that I'm using a hatch to add onto this drawing to make it more detailed and stylized. I can change its color, its opacity, its density. So all of that is done in the hatch style. And then I'll call this roof style. For the flooring, I'm just gonna start by a bold line to represent where the ground runs through. So let's do this. I made a shape with a fill, and I'm just gonna give that fill an opacity level down here. So let's say like 50% opacity. I'm kind of gonna stack it to make this beautiful effect of this ground. So I'm placing a few on top of the other, then double clicking them to edit. So we have a very rough basic beginning to our section here, and what I want to start do is adding onto it, adding information, making it more detailed. I'm going to come back with a more precise section, and we can talk about all the nitty-gritty details. For the roof, you'll notice that I'm using a hatch to add onto this drawing to make it more detailed and stylized. I can change its color, its opacity, its density. So all of that is done in the hatch style, and then I'll call this roof style. For the flooring, I'm just gonna start by a bold line to represent where the ground runs through. So let's do this. Made a shape with a fill, and I'm just gonna give that fill an opacity level down here. So let's say like 50% opacity. I'm kind of gonna stack it to make this beautiful effect of this ground. So I'm placing a few on top of the other, then double clicking them to edit. So we have a very rough basic beginning to our section here, and what I want to start do is adding onto it, adding information, making it more detailed. I'm going to come back with a more precise section, and we can talk about all the nitty-gritty details. And I'm back with the section. As you can see, it's way more coherent now. So it has more furniture blocks from the block library. It has more materials added from the style panel, which we've used as well, and added some details of the construction, like these beams, these shafts for the technical systems of this project. So this is stuff that you're going to do when you create your section. I want to talk now about how you can portray the details of construction and materiality. For now, we've used pretty straightforward, simple, bold walls, for example, so just black. But as you may know, walls tend to have different layering on them. So it's called sandwich walls, and when you're detailing the construction of a building, you really want to show what the wall is made out of, gypsum, isolation, and other. And this depends on the scale you're going to portray your section on. So in the end of the tutorial, we're also going to talk about presenting this and exporting to scale. What I want to show you now is how I can take one area of my section, like this one, for example, and then add detailing onto it. The information here is about the height of the window, the threshold, and total height. And this information is going to be portrayed in two ways. The first is adding annotations, dimensions, and tags. And the second is adding details. So let's start with adding some annotations. Let's start populating our drawing with the symbol. So I'm going to zoom in this window. I can customize the symbol as we've done before. Now that we've added some height blocks on our section, let's add dimensions. So I'm going to go grab the dimensions from the bottom toolbar, and I can select a single or a chain dimension. Let's go for chained. Then I'm going to start populating my drawing with these dimensions. These compound, so I'm just going to write the correct values here in my tags. And basically this is how I'm going to start portraying information about the heights of elements on my section. Alongside these tags of the height and the dimensions, I also want to summon some tags for these openings and windows. So if I quickly go back to our floor plan, each of my door and window has a tag attached to it. And so for this window right here, I'm going to grab the tag and I'll place that next to the window as well. So I'm going to repeat this process across the full section. And here you go. So you'll notice that alongside the tags and annotations we added together, I've added some information onto my section. So you can see I've added window tags to each window. I've also started indicating where I have construction details. So in this case, we're gonna portray this floor plan in a scale of 1 to 100 or 1 to 75, which means that we're gonna need to show a zoom in of the details for construction, of the beams for the ceilings, of the window installation. So I usually use a call out, so a line, dash line with a leader mentioning what detail you have to look into to understand the construction of this architectural element. And I've done this for this beam as well, and also for our window. So what I want to show you now is how this detail looks like and how you can create it. I'm going to zoom out and go to this detail that I've placed on the canvas already. And as I mentioned before, the detail is here to show a few things. So first of all, the materiality, construction materials, isolation, concrete, gypsum, which kind of slabs are to be applied in construction. And for windows installation, this is super critical. A lot of times you're going to be either drawing your details from scratch, or you can also import details from the manufacturer of the openings or the elements that you're working with. It's really critical to have all this information clear to all the different stakeholders of the project. Drawing this section is very straightforward. You're going to use all the different drawing tools here below, so the different line tools that we have, and then you can also, of course, use the different tools like mirror, fillet, extend, trim, and get to a very accurate outcome. All right, so we have our section detail. We have our section. I've also created an elevation. So basically, just to make the difference between a section and an elevation clear, a section is a cut through the building. Elevation is a flat representation of the facade of the building. So you're looking from the outside, you can see the materiality. You can see where things are placed. You can add on to this a bunch more details, a bunch more annotations and dimensions, but this is just to give you a general idea of the differences. And one tip is to represent the ground differently. So in a section, we like to show the ground as if we're cutting within that too. In elevation, we're going to show it from an exterior point of view. So just to make it extra clear how I created this facade, I'm just going to go zoom out a bit and open the layer that we made in the beginning, which is the grid layer. As I insinuated when we copied and rotated these different views, the same as I did for the section. So place the floor plan in the direction that I want to cut it, add my grid lines. So you can see here I have different colors. The green lines are for the beams holding up the ceiling. The pink magenta ones are for the placement of the furniture on the floor plan. This just helps me within all these lines to build my grid. And the same approach applies to facades as well. Now that we have all this in place, I'm going to turn off the grid layer again, and let's close the layer panel. Now it's about how do we export these on a sheet. So far, we've been drawing our sections, elevations, floor plans, and details on a model canvas. You'll notice that in Rayon, you have the option to create model canvases or paper canvases. You can make multiple canvases and draw out each one. It's just a method for you to organize your space. What I recommend to do is draw your actual building on the model space, and then in the paper space is where you can organize your presentation. So the actual documentation set that you're going to then export and send to the other stakeholders. Let's start creating a sheet where we're going to portray the section, elevation, and detail. The first thing I want to do is maybe set the page for my project. Now I want to place a viewport into my model space so I can add the sections here. I'm going to go to the layer panel, click on the plus button and select a view. I can select a view into this canvas or the canvas which we worked on, which is my model canvas. This is a representation of that model. So if I double click this section and try to move it, change it in any way, I'm not going to be able to do that. But I can zoom in and out and set a scale. And I can override some of the layers and the appearance of things in this view. So let's start by setting the scale of this view. The scale can be set from the right property panel. Let's try a few sizes. 1 to 100 could work if we wanted to have the section and elevation maybe on one page. But let's go for 1 to 75 to make it kind of very big and clear for now. I can always click on the disable zoom pan if I want to set on this scale. And then just to adjust the boundaries of my view, I can double click outside of it, and then there's a shortcut. So I can either just use the Control, Shift, or Command, depends on what you're using. Or I can double click the frame and edit it. In this case, I'm going to use the shortcut, and we can see that this fits within this sheet. I need another sheet for the facade and for the details. So let's do this again. I want to add 2 different scales on one sheet. So after I've added my facade, I copied this view. I'm going to unlock the panning option and move to the detail that we had right here. Typically, details are shown in a larger scale. So I'm just going to change this and see what fits in my drawing. So maybe 1 to 50. I think we can even go smaller. Looks like 1 to 25 is going to do the trick. And I'm going to lock this again and set the boundaries. So we've organized our sheets. We have our different sections and details embedded within our full drawing sheet. And the last thing I want to show you today is how in Rayon you can customize a title block. So you'll see that this is a block. It has a purple outline. And basically, once I change anything on this block, so for example, double click it and edit this from let's say this is sheet A1 to sheet A2. Since it's a block, it's going to change across all the title blocks. And of course, we don't want to have the same number for each sheet. We want to have them unique and customized. So to have the title block as a block, which you can edit it once if you want to change the logo, change the text style or the date, you can do that. But to give each title block its unique property, we're going to use metadata. So to use metadata, I'm going to do what we did again. Double click on the block, select the text, and then instead of ordinary text, I'm going to summon a tag and go to the instance of this block and select its name. I'm going to have the generic tag and approve it. And the block is going to summon the name of its instance, meaning that I can select the block and change the name of this instance, particularly on the top here. Let's call this F for facade AA. And you see that the tag changes here, but it didn't change across all the rest of the blocks. So I can then click on this block instance and give it a different name. S for section. There you go. To go full circle, we're just going to export this drawing set. So it's pretty straightforward. We're going to go to the page tool, add a page onto the canvas with this plus button, and then make sure our page is in 1:1 scale. Now we can set our page size. So just going to place that here and make it an A3 sheet. I'm going to copy this page, place it on this sheet too. And you can see that all of my pages are indicated in the page panel. I can export each sheet individually, or I can just go to the export button and select between PNG to PDF. And there you go. My drawing set was saved on my downloads folder in my computer. Scroll down to find our sections and elevations. And there they are. Thanks for watching Ryan's How to Create a Section and Elevation tutorial. We hope you've learned how to create sections, stylize them, use the Rayon block library, and export like a pro. Check out our YouTube channel for more useful hands-on tutorials, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next drawing tutorial.